former FBI special agent and Fox News contributor. I mean, as you hear Chad Wolf lay that out, I mean, that is specific. What else should we know at this point? What are we looking at?
I do think that that's absolutely critical to the investigation is the anti-ICE sentiments written on the shell casings, and we are seeing a pattern of that. We saw, writings on shell casings with Mangione, with the Charlie Kirk tragedy, things of this nature. It's becoming common. People are getting inspired by others, and I appreciate Senator Ted Cruz, very, very strong, saying this will not be tolerated. This has got to stop. Some things that I picked up on, Harris, as a former FBI agent. The FBI will take lead of this investigation because it was an attack on a federal facility and an attack potentially on federal officers, these ICE officers. Having done prisoner transport, obviously a little bit different. I know that when I've done prisoner transport to the federal detention center and in Miami, for example, we pull in our vehicle with the subject in the back of the car. We pull into the Sally Port, and there's literally a gate that comes down before we get out of our vehicle. So it looks like maybe the ICE facility in Dallas has a different sort of protocol there, that this individual is able to haphazardly fire to a van. So again, their target, they don't even seem to have had eyes on the target. They were just firing at whoever was in the van. And earlier you had on Trey Gowdy, who asked a very good question about motive. But I think as a result of the press conference, it is probably a target on the ICE officers and not on the individuals that were being processed.
Here's something new that is just coming in. My team is telling me this now. To make your point, Nicole, it was an unmarked, hard-sided van. So the fact that there were detainees in it, probably not known or heavily perhaps not known by the person who was firing, because it was difficult to see who would have been in that van. Finish your point. I just wanted to get that in there.
You are exactly right, Harris. That is a very, very important point to the investigation. Again, a lot of times these are, like you said, an unmarked van. This is something that when they're doing these ERO operations, I know that the FBI has helped with many of them. It's kind of an all hands on deck with Trump's platform and getting rid of those that are not here legally. Most of the time the hits are earlier in the morning. And so this person, again, without knowing, may know the pattern and may have been keeping an eye on this ICE facility and knowing, okay, they typically do these processings early in the morning. So, they'll do a full investigation to this individual when they were typically seen around the facility, if they were seen around doing surveillance leading up to this tragedy. But it will be an FBI investigation. I do know that the FBI's evidence response team from the Dallas field office is on the ground at the facility processing the crime scene. This will be an all hands on deck. Obviously, the subject is deceased with a gunshot wound, so this will not be going to trial potentially, but don't kid yourself. The FBI is going to do a full investigation to see if this individual is linked to anybody else. And we've been talking about this constant attacks on ICE. This is unacceptable. It cannot continue to happen in our country. These are officers that are putting their lives on the line every single day.
All right, peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. All praise is due to the Most High. I just had to stop it because the title of that video was the suspect was identified as Joshua Jahns. And all throughout that video, that former FBI agent failed to even address the fact that the person who is targeting violence, who is targeting ICE, is a all-American white boy. Now I'm going to show you some more footage of the FBI going to two houses of this guy who has been identified as this shooter, this mass shooter. And just let me show you a picture of him real quick. This is the mass shooter, Joshua Jahns. Looks like one of those 1600 photos of Caesar Borgia or somebody like that. But that is the individual, 29 years old, was found to be the shooter who sat on top of a roof and fired at a van who pulled in with some ICE detainees in it as they were being taken to this detention center. But again, look at this article. This article says, who was Joshua Jahns, shooter in the deadly Dallas attack? No mention of him in that news video. But what they are doing in that particular video is once again vilifying those who disagree with the way ICE is moving out here in the streets and their Gestapo Nazi-like tactics, as it mentioned in the article. They are blaming people's displeasure of their ICE's job description for this violence against them, for this random wanton white boy violence that has been exacted upon them. Now, I actually looked up that other incident. It was like 12 people who were responsible for that ICE attack, and all of them were white. And so they failed to target the group who's doing this. But as I always like to point out, they use this type of violence to justify further violence against Black people in the future. But just take a look at this last clip where it's showing the FBI or, some investigations at two of the locations that Joshua John, the mass shooter, lived in or was known to be in or associated with him. This video, as always, is used in fair use for literary and commentary purposes only. Just watch.
Hello, everybody. I'm Heather Hayes. Welcome back to our breaking news coverage.
And I'm Casey Siegel. Thank you for joining us across Fox Local and our other digital platforms as we continue to monitor this developing situation in Dallas County, a shooting at an ICE detention center.
So that shooter opened fire about 6:30 this morning, firing a rifle from the roof of a building near the Immigration and Customs Enforcement location. This is 35 at Empire Central in Dallas. The gunman fired rounds into an unmarked ICE vehicle that was transporting detainees.
2 ICE detainees were killed and a third was wounded. The numbers have been quite fluid as this has developed since this morning. The gunman, we can tell you, is dead, and sources have identified the shooter as 29-year-old Joshua Jahns. The FBI says the suspect wrote anti-ICE messaging on bullets, and they are calling it a targeted attack.
But there are still a lot of questions. How long the attack was planned, what motivated that suspect, so much to answer. But here's what we can tell you. We do know that law enforcement has arrived at multiple homes connected, they say, possibly to that shooter.
Yep, we've got a location in North Texas, also one in Oklahoma. One is in Durant, Oklahoma. That's about 20 minutes or so north of Denison. And that's where we find Fox 4's Stephen Dial, who is reporting live for us with the latest on the ground in Oklahoma. Hey, Stephen, what are you seeing there?
Casey, we just got here on the ground to Durant, Oklahoma, and behind me is just one police unit. We don't know how many units actually are down this road. The home that is tied to this investigation is further down that road, but we came here from Fairview, which is outside of McKinney. And at that location, we saw someone who was believed to be family members arrive at the home and then go in. Now we know, and we've shown from Sky 4 for some time, that the FBI is on the ground there in Fairview. And here in Durant, we have not seen many law enforcement officials yet, but that does not mean they could be down the road. We've only been here for about 20 minutes. And so we know that this home is tied to the gunman, but we don't know in what way. We don't know where the gunman came from before that deadly shooting that happened in Dallas earlier this morning. And so we don't know if this is just a part of the investigation as far as them searching known addresses, or if the shooter indeed possibly drove from Oklahoma. That has yet to be determined. And so right now we are waiting to see if more law enforcement will arrive here. You saw 2 officers get out of that vehicle right there. That is a county sheriff's vehicle. That's not a federal official. So we're waiting to see if federal officials come. When we were actually in Fairview, Casey and Heather, when we were there were no law enforcement officials there. And then when we left, the FBI arrived. And I was able to capture some images of those family members walking into that Fairview home. They were kind of frantic. And we spoke to a neighbor off camera who said that family had multiple young adult sons, which adds up to the age of this gunman here in the incident that happened earlier this morning. And he also knew the family's last name, which matches up to the last name of the gunman. So we are waiting here in Durant, Oklahoma, to try to see what or how important this location is behind us as to if there is any evidence that can link to why this happened and how this happened, and if there were any planning ahead of time before this deadly shooting.
Well, Stephen, you talked about you talked to a neighbor there, and I know that's one of the things you do when you get to a scene is you talk to the neighbors. I guess a couple of questions. A, sort of describe this neighborhood. Looks like there's probably a lot of distance between the homes. And B, if you have had the opportunity to talk to any folks there, or if people are coming out of their houses to share information with you.
Right. So there's only about, from my view, about 3 homes along this road. It's off of a dirt road, off 75 the way we came. But the home is further back. If you were to look on Google Maps, it's a large property, and so we don't know what connection it is to the gunman, but we know this is one of those known addresses, but we don't know if he came from that address today or sometime in the planning stages of this shooting. So in this area, I mean, we're next to a person, but not much milling about. Now in that Fairview location, that was a more residential type area.
All right, so we're going to stop it right there. You see that brother out there doing his due diligence. He's not really giving too much information. He doesn't really know much. The rest of that news video talked about how they got to that location, how news stations, as soon as they learn of a name of the individual, they have the opportunity to, look them up and get various amounts of information, which led them to that spot. So they really don't know if that's a place he was staying at or, his relatives were there. Only thing they know is that there's some type of connection to this guy, once again, Joshua Jahns or Jahns, and that residence. And as they mentioned, they was in Fairview, Texas as well, trying to get some information about this guy. But it all seems, once again, very gentle when discussing this man who opened fire on detainees and possibly was meant to target ICE workers. And so, once again, these are random acts of white violence. And not too much is said about, once again, the perpetrators of these acts in regards to what they are doing in the lives they are putting in danger. They are talking about this must stop. Violence against law enforcement must stop. Demonizing them must stop. But who are you talking to? You have to be specific when you are talking about people taking the lives of law enforcement or, government officials or, ICE agents. All of these people are being targeted by white people. And so we have to, we can't let that slide. This is, I don't know, probably about the 5th or 6th shooting like this I've covered within the last couple weeks or so. And all of them have been white people enacting random acts of violence on, U.S. soil. And so, as they say, Rome fell within. It looks like America is beginning to fall within because, violence begets violence. And that's what we see, whether it's through ICE, the police department, the U.S. military. All of these things have a ending date, a check date, a return to sender date. And that is some things that I feel that we are seeing right now, because as a man soweth, so shall they reap, and as a nation soweth, so shall it reap. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this video in the comments. Y'all see the number 919-587-7782. Make sure, if you have not already done so, please subscribe to the channel, which helps the channel to grow and gain more exposure. But I definitely thank you for watching this particular video, sharing, liking, commenting, subscribing, whatever you have done. I really appreciate it. And as always, I pray you have peace and blessings.